Alana? Go ahead. Go ahead, you can hold it. Hold it up. Mom, okay.
My dad kept the household together between me and my mother.
Can you hear her?
No. My dad kept the sanity and the household together between me and my mother. Between the daughter and mother fights, I'd always say, Dad, what do, and he'd either say, I don't want to deal with it, or he'd talk to my mother and everything at the time. And not gonna lie, a lot of the time I got my way. I remember when I was little and I had to get up for school, and I said, I'll only get up if you give me a donut. And so he bribed me with donuts to get up to go to school. And I remember him coming back from business trips, and he went to, I believe, England, and he brought me back this pin of one of the soldiers, one of
The palace guards.
and I thought it was the coolest thing. And he's like, you won't believe how expensive this thing was. I got it at the airport. Things are really expensive at the airport. And when he went to Israel and he came back, he handed me 20 shekels, so 20 shekel bill. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And I still have it somewhere. But he gave my brother and I a better childhood than he had. He was able to provide us more. We had everything that we could want. And I just remember taking naps with him on the hammock, him and I watching the news, and him making me coffee, which consisted of mostly milk and a drop of coffee, and us having shouting matches with Marvin.
Marvin won.
Yeah, Marvin won. And just, I'm not gonna lie, it really sucks. It just really sucks, because one of my greatest fears was not having my dad walking down the aisle whenever I get married, or not seeing grandchildren. And I would talk to him about it, and he said, don't worry. And then I just
End it with an upper. End it with an upper.
I just loved him, and he loved us. He loved us. And the other day, I do have something to say. The other day, I saw a rubber band on the floor, and my cat likes to eat rubber bands, so I went to go take it away, so she wouldn't be able to find it. And I found this ginger candy underneath the desk, and my mom loves ginger candies, and it said "I love you" on it. And it was really weird how at that moment I found that.
This is Eric. For some of you who haven't met him, this is my son Eric. This is his girlfriend Erica. And I'm going to hand it over.
Hello. I would like to thank you all for coming in. I would like to thank you all for coming in. My father was a large man, and I don't mean that in the physical sense. He had a presence that when he walked into a room, it demanded attention. Attention that most of the time he really didn't want or care for. But as you all know, when he did speak, it carried weight. It demanded to be heard. It always had wisdom. I would always say that he was, when I would tell people my dad is the smartest person I know, they would always say, oh, everyone always says that about their dad. Everyone thinks their dad is the smartest person. And I didn't mean that in the sense that he's my father, but the fact that I know that he quite literally helped shape the direction that technology has moved to. And I know that all of you feel the same way because my father was not the most socially outgoing person. he didn't like to really go out, meet new people, but when he did, people naturally gravitated towards him. And people knew that what he was saying was true. It wasn't marred by social contract to be nice. He spoke what he thought, and people listened. And I would like to share 2 things that my dad told me. He told me that dream without execution leads nowhere. You have to work for it. But you have to remember that execution without dream is suicide. You can't forget why it is you're doing what you're doing. And you have to make sure that it's a sustainable goal that will make you happy or lead you to a place that you will be a better person, that will better yourself. He also said, "It is what it is." So, to remind me that I do need to accept reality, I can't change it. You have to accept what you cannot change. And I live by these words. I do what I do because of him. I originally felt minimalistic compared to my father, because he had these massive shoes, these massive prints in, and I'm just grateful that while I know I could never fill these shoes, I'm grateful that he taught me the tools needed that I can still walk along the same path and be a good person and a great man. And I would like to thank you all for coming again.
Erica, Jeffrey's love, and Eric's love. No, we all love her. We do.
Sorry guys, I might be, can you hear me? Hello? No. So, I haven't known Jeffrey for as long as a lot of people have. I met him about 2 years ago when Eric and I started dating. Relatively soon after dating, Eric introduced me to his parents in North Carolina, which I had never been before. And I don't know much about Jewish culture, except that Jewish sons and their mothers have a very close relationship. So I was very nervous to meet Julie. And on the way up there, he's telling me about his dad, who is like this genius, apparently. And Eric says that most people don't believe when he says that his dad is a genius, but he started naming the things that he had done. And I'm like, okay, well now I have to impress his mom, which might not happen, and I have to not be stupid, which might not happen. So we get up to the house. Julie comes out with Shayna, who I was also warned might be a little bit skittish. Shayna was the sweetest dog. Julie came in for a hug when I went in for a handshake. And I go into the house, and there's this giant of a man. And he's wearing a white shirt, shorts, and white socks. He looks kind of like Albert Einstein, but whatever. And so I'm really nervous because I'm a small thing. And he says, "Hello, Erica. Nice to meet you. Say hello to Marvin." Okay. All right. And I think it was very special that I was able to go there because I got to meet David and Willie Wong and his friend John. And I got to be around these geniuses. I was very quiet. I didn't want to sound stupid, so I just kind of shut up. But when we went to North Carolina, we went to, not the...
Arboretum?
Yes, the Arboretum. And on the way back, we went to an Indian restaurant. And everybody rode with Julie except for me and Jeffrey. We went in his car. And I was super nervous because I hadn't really talked to him. And he wasn't talking to me either. He was a very awkward car ride for the most part. But we get in the car and I say, "So, I hear you're from Brooklyn." And he just went on and on about New York for like the entire car ride. But I didn't realize how important he was going to be to my life at that moment. But I should have guessed it. I got injured at work once and my shoulder was in a lot of pain. And I told my parents about it and they were, upset. But I told Eric about it, who told his parents about it. And they both called me. Julie called me first, but I didn't answer. Jeffrey called me. And "You better not let that corporation screw you over. You better make sure they don't treat you like you're nothing. You better make sure they pay what they owe. Don't let them screw you around." And then Julie says the same thing. She's like, "Oh yes, and we also love you." I felt really bad after his passing. I felt kind of guilty because it hit me a lot harder than I expected it to. Julie and Jeffrey didn't owe me anything, but they've always welcomed me and treated me with love and respect. And I always felt welcomed in their home. And I mean, I feel kind of cheated because I feel like I would have liked to have had more time with him. But I'm glad I got to know him. And I'm glad I got to know his stupid, corny dad jokes. It was really nice knowing that you're talking to a genius and they still find a way to slide a corny dad joke in. It's like, oh, they're everywhere. I just wanted to say that.
Does anybody else want to share anything? Well, good. Ed and Jeff went to college together. Ed used to be known as, can I say it? This is Ed the Head.
See, it's right here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I knew Jeff for not quite as long as Dave, probably only by a few weeks though. But yeah, in college he was impressively large and had the presence even back then. But I remember how much he agonized over giving himself that A-. It was unbelievable. It was just hard to thought. Purely by coincidence, I moved down here to Florida about the same time as Jeff. And I remember him coming over to dinner with my future wife and I and telling us about meeting Julie. And the other great thing he did for me was he gave me a call in 1989 and said, "I have the opportunity of a lifetime for you, but I can't tell you anything about it. Are you interested?" Being Jeff always very secretive when he had to be, and I ended up working at Citrus. The funny story is I didn't get hired the first time I applied. It wasn't until the second time I applied I got hired there. And I worked, and Jeff had an office next to mine. I had a cubicle. And I remember at one point he was working on doing sound for remote terminals, which is now nothing, but at the time it was cutting edge stuff. But the way he tested it is he got sound clips from National Lampoon's Animal House. So for hours, I would be listening to these sound clips from Animal House. That drunk and stupid is no way to go through life, kid. You know, or we wanted to have them for dates. But, and just to close on this, my last memory of Jeff, the last time I saw him, I do a meetup in my office building from time to time. It's a technology meeting, and it's in a huge atrium. It's a 4-story building with a huge atrium in the middle, so things echo. And he came to see it. So the last thing I remember is hearing that huge laugh of his booming and echoing through this building, where I think everybody in the building, no matter whether behind closed doors or not, could hear him laughing. And so that's my last memory of him. And I'm gonna miss him.
Anybody else have anything to say, or, and if you would rather say it privately to Danielle, that's fine too. I just wanted to tell you that he was a genius. He wrote 3 books. Most of you know that. After the second or third date, he finally said something to me about that he wrote a book, and he showed it to me. And the next time we saw him, he said, "So, what did you think of the book that I wrote?" And it's technical, you know. And I looked at him, I said, "Jeffrey, I read the first page and I never had such a good night's sleep in my life." And my mother said to me, "He likes you. Why are you doing this to him?" So, yeah, he was amazing, and he had an amazing sense of humor, and he put up with a lot from me. I don't know if any of you know this, but I brought 3 beehives into the house. That was when I thought that there was going to be a hurricane. And yes, oh my God, he's right. I had about, how much do you think is in a good set of hives? About 60 to 80,000 a hive, John, Susan? About 80, so that's like over 20, that's 240,000, my math is off, something like that. And he's going to be, they're going to go through the ventilation. They're going to go everywhere. And I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. We chased bees for days in the kitchen. We're all running around with glass jars and pieces of paper so that we won't kill them. He really put up with a lot of things with me, and I'm, pardon me, for sure, it's right, it's true, and I love him, and I want all of you to have a wonderful time, go back to eating, and Danielle's here if you think of something that you want to say, and I want to thank you for all coming to celebrate his wonderful life. So thank you very much, and definitely please come and see Danielle. I need it, my kids need it, and it's going to be an important way for them to never truly step out of our lives. So thank you.
And we really appreciate you all being here today. It means the world to us, as Jeffrey meant the world to us. We know we all have a lot of really funny, wonderful stories to tell about Jeffrey, because I'm hearing him laughing right now as I'm speaking. And I just love that laugh, as well as I'm sure all of you have. Appreciate it. Thank you.
First off, I have nothing prepared, so please excuse me. First off, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that all of you are here to celebrate Jeffrey and his life. There are so many groups here, there's so many diverse people. There's Citrix people here, Dayjet people. Citrix people, raise your hands. Okay, we have Citrix people. Do we have IBM people? Do we have Dayjet people? Do we have Starbucks people? And thank you so much for the Starbucks group. They fed us for the last week and a half. The food was amazing. Thank you, Bernie. I have a few bee people here that are for me and to my family. I have people that flew in from California. I have people that have, please forgive me, from all over that come around. And then there's the Bunko group, the book club group. Where are you guys? You know, I mean, I am wealthier than Bill Gates because I have friends. I have real genuine friends, and so did Jeffrey. And the one thing that everybody does say to me is that they never could forget his laugh. You could always hear his laugh. And wherever he worked, he never wore shoes. They all saw him with his white socks. You know, he always had to wear those white socks, and I had to frickin' wash them all the time.
Hi Jeff, wherever you are. I love you. You're a fantastic, good friend. All I can say is you are my FF friend.
And I am Jeffrey's aunt, so I guess that makes me the matriarch because I have the memories that go back the furthest. And the memories, one of them is that he really disrupted my wedding. He really did, because Charlotte, his mother, who was the love of my life, was supposed to be my matron of honor. And there she was in the hospital giving birth to Jeffrey. And I couldn't go to his bris because I was on my honeymoon. And as much as I loved Jeffrey, I wasn't coming back from my honeymoon to his bris. One of the things that I remember with such fondness, Jeffrey was about 3, maybe 4 years old, and he had a little bicycle. And he was supposed to stay on the street in front of the house. I walked over with my baby carriage, with this young man in the baby carriage. And there was Jeffrey in the street with this tricycle. I said, Jeffrey, you're not supposed to be here. What's wrong? He said, I know, but don't tell. No, I never did. I kept his secret. I remember a lot of things about Jeffrey. When he was a young man, little, couldn't go in a car. Every time we went over a bridge, he threw up. Remember? Was he always that way?
No.
Well,
He was driving. He didn't throw up.
After a while, when we went someplace with the family, my husband would say, is Jeffrey coming? And I would say yes. He said, find another car. The times that really are most personal to me and most loving are the family seders and Thanksgivings, when the food would be plentiful because Jeffrey's grandmother made sure that it was heaping, and we all had a wonderful time. And I remember Jeffrey not only his laugh, but his great intelligence. He and my husband had a lot in common. They used to go out together to Starbucks. They used to talk on the phone about the stock market. And I always thought that maybe my husband had a special place in his heart the way he did in ours. Thank you.
I only met Jeffrey 3 times. My wife and I were going to be the neighbors of Jeffrey in his new location. First time we met Jeffrey, all the political things were going on, and here was this person moving next door to me. And I wasn't sure what we were going to be living next to.
He still doesn't know.
So in our first meeting, I heard 2 things from Jeffrey. 1, he was for Hillary, and 2, he loved Game of Thrones. So then I knew life was going to be okay.
Jeff and I go back over 30 years. We first met at IBM, and I'll never forget when he was so excited that he came. And he told me about this hot chick he met from Miami Beach.
Miami,
excuse me. But you know, one of the stories I was sharing earlier, I remember in IBM, we we had some of the most talented people in the world there, and getting to work with Jeff and was really changed my life. And we were sitting in the lab one day after we'd been working for about a year and a half on a project, and we had equipment all over the place that we just spent months and months setting up and doing tests. And then we just gotten word that the whole project had been scrapped. And so we're just kind of sitting there, and I'm looking at Jeff, and I said, gee, Jeff, what do you think we're going to work on now? And in that way that Jeff had, with such vision and such insight, he turned to me and said, Bob, it doesn't so much matter to me what I work on, it's who I work with and how we work together with other artists. And I've never forgotten that. I bet when I speak to students, I've spent some time at the college, I always share that story. And, it's interesting. I wish I could say I was smart enough to know how financially rewarding Citrix was going to end up being. But when I was at IBM, I loved being a new IBM manager. And Jeff and Ed and Ann and some of the others in this room had come together. And Jeff would call me about once a week and say, Ed, this is really cool stuff, you need to come check it out. But to be honest with you, I was scared because I knew we all had signed a non-compete clause, and I was just sure that, they were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, when in fact it wasn't. So, finally one day, I said, I need to go see what they're doing. And so Jeff really was instrumental in bringing me to Citrix. And the thing that really was the turning point to me was, it's just so hard to describe the opportunity, to work with the people in this room from Citrix that I work with are, many of you may not realize, they are some of the top computer professionals in the world. And Ed and Jeff had that ability to attract people like that around them. And the excitement and the energy, we changed the world. This whole cloud computing thing, Citrix was a pioneer in all of that. And so I think that was really, I guess the one funny story I remember, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was that Jeff was, I know he had this on his door in the early days forever, but you remember the cartoon of the spiders that put the spider web at the bottom of the slide, and they said, if we pull this off, we're going to eat like kings? So, that was in the early days. After the second or third time we almost went under at Citrix. Were you the one that gave him that one? Yeah, so that's a classic early Citrix memento. So anyway, thank you for letting me share that.
It was or why, but me and Julie went and bought like 10 cans of silly string, and Julie had them hidden in her room, and then I went into Jeff and Julie's bathroom, and she was sending people in one at a time to like put them in their pockets. There was like a secret password at the door, so Jeff could not figure this out. And then all of a sudden she like said like the key word, and everyone silly stringed Jeff, and he was so mad because he was like, it's gonna get all over the house and no one's gonna know.
So I didn't know Jeffrey for very long. I definitely would have liked to get to know him more. I remember the first time that I met him, we were at your house, and he just walked out in his underwear, and I thought to myself, oh yeah, this is a guy that I'm gonna like. He's a man after my own heart.
I'm Julie's cousin from California. I will never forget in my life the time we recently had with Jeff and you in Palm Desert and Pioneer Town and Palm Springs, and that was such a wonderful vacation for us to get to see you and enjoy that beautiful area.
Favorite Jeff story of all time, which everyone's heard 1,000 times, is so when Alana came home from the hospital, Jeff had mono, and he was barred from seeing Alana at all times unless he was wearing a mask. And Julie, we had Alana out. She was a preemie, so she's, 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds. And Julie decides to make Cocoa Krispies by putting Rice Krispies, chocolate syrup, and milk in a bowl. And Jeff wants to know what she has, and they chase each other around the island for like a long time until I finally step in to counter Julie, and Rice Krispies go everywhere. It was really bad.
I'm Barry Epstein, Joanne Epstein's husband, who's the best friend of Julie's, and I'm happy to meet him. Some of you may not know, like Marvin the parrot slept every night on Jeffrey's head. When I heard that, I couldn't believe it. But anything unique about the Krantz household, that's one of them. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, there we go.
The free subway story is that when we were on 210 University Drive in Coral Springs, Subway brought in free food for us one time because I guess we had ordered so much Subway. So they had it in the lunchroom. So somebody said, oh, look, there's free food from Subway in the lunchroom. So just said, free food, Subway, and did a beeline at about 100 miles an hour into the lunchroom.
Jeff always liked a good deal.
Yes.
I guess one of the stories that I remember actually goes back to IBM days. And Jeff and I have been working for about a year and a half on a project, and it was one of those deals that got canceled. And so we had a lab just full of equipment, and we were sitting there, we'd just gotten word that the project had been canceled, and I turned to Jeff, and I said, well, Jeff, what do you think we're going to work on next? And he said, it's not so much me what I work on, it's who I work with and how we work together. And I've never forgotten that. And I think, to me, that was the reason why I wanted to go to Citrix was to work with you guys. I wish I was smart enough to know that it was going to be financially rewarding. But no, Jeff had just a vision and a way to know these things. So that's my story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have one thing. I'll tell a quick one. We'll catch up later. When I met Jeff, we were in Palm Springs, and it was with Ed Iacobucci. He had actually introduced us, and Ed introduced me as being a friend of his, introduced me to Jeff, and I was a certified test car driver for General Motors, so I picked them up in the car. When we went to drop Jeff off, Ed and I were together, and I dropped them off at the hotel driving 40 miles an hour in reverse. So Jeff was like, oh my God, he was panicking. He was the chief worrier, but he never forgot that story, that the time we met, it was 40 miles an hour in reverse.
All right, so Jeff has this really, really, really old black car that the windows, the sunroof doesn't work anymore. So Julie and me epoxied it shut, and then the paint was starting to peel, and Julie decided that he needed a new paint job, but he couldn't afford a real paint job. So we went to the store and bought black, house paint, and painted his whole car one night. Jeff was like, oh, look, I got a new car. But he didn't get the car. And then it was kind of sealed shut. So it took him a while to be able to actually drive that car. That was a great car. And then, okay, so Julie is a hoarder. She might not admit it, she's a hoarder. So at the Boca Chase house, in order to get into their garage, you had to climb over things. In order to do laundry, you had to literally climb over things. So to get cars in, you also had to climb over things. So Jeff would come in and he'd get really upset about this. So me and Julie would move everything to the side and stack it a little higher so you could walk straight to the lunchroom. And he'd be like, oh, you cleaned, and thought she got rid of stuff, but she never got rid of anything. Including going to every single thrift shop and at dumpsters, literally, and she would put stuff in the car, and then she would be like, okay, Joe, how can we hide this in the house so that he won't notice it right away? And we used to put stuff and put a bear on top of it or put a pillow, and then 6 months, 8 months later, Jeff would be like, oh my God, I really like that chair. And she was like, no, we've had it forever. But it was brand new. Months. He didn't notice a big chair. He didn't notice half a fish tank. He didn't notice, she upgraded the fish tank. He didn't notice, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. When she got sick of the tile in the dining room, she decided to just rip everything off the floor, and we painted the dining room floor and then epoxied over it, and then she decided that one of the chairs didn't match well enough, so we matched it to the dining room floor. He did not like the new floor. He's not in his color scheme. But it stayed until he sold the house.
Yes, Jeffrey, this plate is for you. I'll get more sweets in just a few minutes and lots of carbohydrates for you as well. I love you, Jeff, so much. You can't imagine. And I know you're here with us, having a good time and smiling.
I am president of company in Rice Corporation, and my colleague Dr. Vlad Ritko, he chief technology officer of this company. We knew Jeff just 10 years. He was member of our board. board of our company in Arise Corporation. And it was very important, your knowledge, your idea about new technologies. We had very good discussion with him, and he was very important person for in our mind, in our soul. We will remember him all the time. He will be involved in all our future success. And we have what we have just now, but memory about him all the time, in our soul, in our company also. Thank you.
Any funny story, funny memory, anything he would say or do, something that made you laugh? Because I heard his laugh was he had a good laugh, right? A big laugh?
Okay, some history connected with follow. We thinking what more important in our technologies. In our company we develop new technologies for lithium-ion battery, for photovoltaic, for specific non-destructive testing. Sometimes he visited us. It was just 2 years ago. The discussion was very important. It was his opinion. Guy, he said, you see technology of our company, Arise Corporation, in this company, better than technology other companies. And he provided very important samples, technologies from other companies, compared with technology from our company. His opinions help us right direction for next step of our technology. It was very important. We remember our meeting. It was in our house. It very good, very friendly when he visited us together with Bob. They were our friend and our colleague. It was very important our meeting when we discussed with him what was the good new direction, and we followed his advice.
The cookie backdrop.
Yeah, just like cookies. At Citrix, Jeff had an office, and he was in his health kit. And he would go running during lunchtime, but he'd come back all sweaty. And he'd change in his office, and he'd take his underwear and put them outside the door on the doorknob of his office. And people that were sitting around there were so disgusted by that. So that's a really good Jeff story. But he did it all the time. Let's see if I can think of another one.
Did he have an extra pair of underwear? Or he just went underwearless the rest of the day?
I do know the first time I did meet Jeff, I was at IBM. I really didn't know him. I was in an office right next to him. And Jeff just moved in. We both moved into these offices. And all day long, Jeff would really always talk loud. He was always almost there. He's always had a loud voice, loud laugh, and he'd be on the phone all day long. And he would.
Excuse me. 1 second. We're doing a video.
So I was in the office right next to Jeff. He was on the phone. He was telling his buddy and everybody, I'm gonna get married. And this is before he got married, but I go, who is this guy? He's so loud. And but everyone knows Jeff that way.
And I'm Jeffrey. Late as usual. And I'm Jeffrey's mother-in-law. So you know, a mother-in-law and a son-in-law, and we got along just beautifully. Because he teased me unmercifully, and I took it, and then I gave it back to him when I could. But anyway, the classic thing is I was wanting a new car for 3 years, and my husband had passed away, so Jeffrey said, well, Mom, I'll help you, and what do you want? And I'm telling him what I want, and he said, well, come on, go and get it. And it took me 3 years. So during that time, Jeffrey said to me, well, what are you doing today, Mom? And I said, I'm going to go no, you have to go get a new car. Is this the day you're getting a new car? But it was never the day. So one day he called me up and he said, look, I told all the things you said you wanted in a car. I looked it up, I did my research, and this is the car that you should get. Go down to the dealer, say you want this, you want this, you want this, and that's the car. And that's what I did. And that's what I'm driving, and that's what I like. That's a mother-in-law. This is my niece, Alyssa. This is my sister, Sherry's daughter.
Hi, everybody. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. Hi. I don't have something funny to say, but something
Anything.
good, So Uncle Jeff recently went to California, where I live, and he was really excited about buying a property there, and oh man, okay. Whew. So he was really excited about buying a property, and he calls me and my husband call, and he's like, I'm gonna get to see you a lot now because I'm gonna get this property, and it's really great. And we were excited, and I had never really had him call me before that I remember, and it's just, he's my uncle. I don't know, it doesn't happen that often, I guess, sometimes, but it was really nice, and I thought it was really inspiring that, he just realized what he wanted to do at some point, and it was great, and I hope that I can do that, and I think that's a really cool thing that he was able to do, is keep realizing new dreams, so that's inspiring. I like that. Now remember.
He also was looking for a piece of property where I could keep bees on it. This is Jeff's very dear friend, Steve Woloshin.
Hi, I'm Steve.
You gotta put that close to you.
I'm sorry?
You gotta put that close to you.
Okay, can you hear me? I've known Jeff almost 40 years. I'm trying not to get too emotional, but I have so many stories. I could bore you for hours, but I just want to say a couple of things and give the mic to someone else. When Jeff and I met at IBM in Kingston, and even though we both come from similar backgrounds, and that we're both first-generation Americans with parents from New York, but I grew up in Queens and he grew up in Brooklyn. Jeff came in to IBM as a very high-powered guy with bachelor's and master's doing really important research. I started out fixing car punch equipment in Queens and wound up in Kingston, but we worked together. And I used to think I wouldn't understand the really tough stuff, and Jeff made it all easy to understand. And he opened up a whole world for me. And then, we're both kind of nerdy guys, but I tried to make it a little less nerdy. I told him to grow a mustache, and he did, and he always had it. And I thought that was nice.
I would have never dated him without that mustache.
I didn't know that, so I'm
Great
glad.
job, thank
But the story I really want to tell is the Citrix people probably like this. Jeff and I went cross-country in '78. My sister moved to California. She asked me to drive her brand-new Renault Le Car to California. And as Jeff and I were driving this thing, and we get to California, and I had a cousin at the time, a second cousin, who was a very opinionated person in a good way. And she sat Jeff and me down and she lectured us. What are you doing at IBM? That huge company, you can't make a difference. You guys are two little nothings there. You'll never amount to anything. You really need to get out and do something important with a little company or startup or whatever. And she just was relentless. And we just politely listened. It was about a year or two later, Jeff calls me up and he tells me that he's got this opportunity to work for a startup called Citrus, right? First called Citrus. Not many people know that. I had his business card that said that. So I said, Jeff, this sounds like what my cousin Gabby was talking about. I said, and I think this is your opportunity to do exactly what she said we should be doing. And he said, do you think so? I said, go for it. We did, and the rest is history. And I actually interviewed at Citrix for a marketing job a few years later. It didn't work out. I'm sorry about that, but I thought you might want to know that. And I also, when times like this come, for a few other people, well, first of all, for my wife's birthday every year, I write her a poem. I don't know, just something comes to my head, I write it and put it in a card. And for a couple other people who passed on, a poem kind of came into my head for the person. And I have one for Jeff. It might be hard for me to read, but I'll try.
You want me to hold this?
Yeah, you might have to help me. Sometimes things are hard to say, and sometimes they're not. But what I'm going to say today comes straight from my heart. I've known Jeff almost 40 years. He was more like a brother than a friend. and I always knew that we'd be close until the very end. But that's supposed to be years away. A day I never thought would come. But it did, and now we're here, and all of us are numb. But we're here today to be not sad in losing such a good friend, because memories of fun with Jeff for all of us will never end.
This is my sister Sherry. She was late because I didn't turn my clock. Of all people, to not turn her clock on properly. So this is my sister from Miami.
I just, Jeffrey was one of a kind. I just remember every time we came over for Passover, he would have Marvin on his shirt. And he just would be constantly feeding him matzah. And I would look at Jeff and he would have matzah all over his shirt and the birds like eating, and it's just a huge mess all over his shirt. And then he would have Marvin sit on his plate other times and eat spaghetti, and it just, and like Marvin was just like his best buddy, and it was just so unbelievable that he had such a close friend that's a bird. He even said that he took showers with him. So it just, I have that vision of him with all the crumbs all over his shirt every single time. And other is his laugh. It was just so loud, and he would come to my house for all kinds of events, parties, and different things, and just he loved to pile his plate and sit down, and he was such a great guy. We're really gonna miss him. And this past Thanksgiving, he was so jovial and full of life, and that's how I'm gonna remember him. Julie and Jeff were like had a comedy routine going on at the table, and it was just really funny. So that's how I'm gonna remember him.
We had a lot of fun at the table. And as far as Marvin's concerned, Marvin was also an alcoholic. And the doctor, Marvin's doctor had said that the bird had to go completely, he had to go completely on the, what's it called?
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey. The bird was not happy. He liked his red wine. This is my sister Lori. Lori lives in Atlanta.
Hi, I just wanted to say the last year of Jeff's life, he was full of a new vigor, a zest for life. He wanted to go out and make lots of friends. He was really into millennials. I mean, like really into millennials. He talked about them all the time. He always wanted to talk to the kids, the millennials, and find out what they were doing and how they were doing it. And, it was really fun. And I've known Jeff, of course, a very long time, as long as David started dating and everything. But this past year, we got really close. He came by to visit me. He was going through town. I live in Atlanta. And he came through to visit for a night, and it ended up being almost a week. And we ended up having such a wonderful visit, getting to know each other even better. And then every time I called Julie to talk to Julie on the phone, Jeff wanted to be on the phone call too. So it was like girlfriends. He was on the phone with his girlfriends. It was a three-way all the time. Wait, Jeff's getting on the phone too. But my memories of Jeff are of all the years of his kindness, his genuineness, he was fun, he just a good person. He's just a really good person, and he will be missed so much.
I got a great repeat. Were you here for? This is a great repeat. Oh, it was Alyssa. Never mind. Okay, this is my niece Dara. This is Sherry's daughter.
Hi. I have very good memories with my Uncle Jeff. He came to New York when I was there for a summer, and he called me up and he's like, I want to get dinner with you. And he just loved his family so much. And also this Thanksgiving, He was so funny. I have a video of him. They had a water fight. He kept laughing and laughing, and I was like, wait, do it one more time. And so I was like, I planned it out, and they did the water fight on camera, and I have that, and I'll always remember him.